Scions number 278, I think. I think that sounds about right. Just Jake and Jack today actually is out of town, so we're gonna roll through a very volleyball focused episode. We are a mere weeks that we'll have volleyball and football starting on the same exact night, but we're gonna knock out volleyball first here on our official previews of sorts here, and then we'll dive into some football news, and then a little bit of other just stuff that's coming out. But otherwise, it's been a relatively quiet week at Tech. Uh, so we'll just dive right into volleyball here. We talked about the schedule last week. I'll go ahead and just mention a couple of notable games here, if in case you missed last week. On the non-con side, we play Ole Miss, we play Purdue, Kansas, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and Georgia. That Georgia game is in McCamish Pavilion on September 19th, if you can make it. There are still some tickets available for the games inside McCamish or inside O'Keefe. We play Stanford twice, and we play Clemson twice of our AC and Pittsburgh twice of our ACC opponents, and then everyone else would just play a single time. So that's the big news on the schedule. Jake, the big thing overall, though, is that we have lost 12 players, most of them to graduation, but we, as far as I know, for our shared experience watching this team, have never seen this much turnover in a single year for this team.
I think that's very fair. I don't think a team has turned over a leaf quite this hard as this team has in maybe any sport. I mean, transfer portal men's basketball and women's basketball this year. We'll get into that in a little bit,
Yeah,
but like if
baseball's had a lot of turnover, but it's like there's so
but
much
like
background. This
I,
is just like the whole team.
I mean the last time volleyball built to something, I would say is 2016, which that team, because the NIVC didn't exist for that period of time, didn't even go to a postseason tournament, and
Right.
that team lost a lot. But I mean, just with how this program's been able to sustain lately, I mean, I don't know, Jack. Like I'm not going to be negative here, but outside of Bianca Bertolino, I'm trying to identify Laura Fisher maybe as like a 4-year player that
Otane.
uh could, but she wasn't a 4-year player, right? I guess
Yeah.
she came in as an experienced transfer, but Otane
Yeah.
Bertolino, maybe Leah Harper or Laura Fisher, like that. There's a lot that it feels like we've lost, so to say. But like the only one that I look at this list and I go, I'm surprised, and they were here for, a full 4 or 5 years, is Laura Martinez Casas, who didn't transfer anywhere, just
Yeah.
went back to Argentina, as at least according to your notes. I'm learning
That's
this
what
as I read
that's
the
what
the,
I
the
found.
shot sheet today. So
Yeah, that is what I found. She is not appearing on any other roster, and one of those volleyball bigger intel sites has her at a club in Argentina right now, and she didn't really play at all
mm,
last year. A big note here this year is that there are roster limits with the whole new
yeah.
NCAA things and stuff like that, so we can't carry as large of a team as we usually do. Um, so people having a stronger depth does matter here, and that may have been
Well,
part of the puzzle. I don't know.
and that's weird too, because we generally had a fairly large team. Georgia Tech, has a well-developed volleyball program, and that's why it's been so successful. But I feel like one common theme we've talked about in the we'll call it post 2016 era, right? Make it a little bit longer than this podcast has been going on, right around when maybe you and I would be considered having like actually followed the org more or less, with any sort of knowledge. I would not call me not knowing anything in 2016 as following a team. But all that to say, in that whole time, we've really harped on Michelle Collier and her staff really play a short lineup
Yeah,
a lot of the time, like
yeah,
a lot of the time, and to see a handful of transfers. Granted, maybe Logan Wiley pops off the list as being a name we've talked about a couple times here, but
hmm
like it's not like a ton of some of these folks were getting a ton of playing time, which is why, on the other hand, seeing such a long list of also incoming players at the same time kind of leaves me a little bit puzzled. Like it's a team that's had like 4 to 7, depending on the year, truly great players. And outside of that, Jack, like there's been a lot of them, but I don't think we've seen, if 2021 is a primo example of this, but like, 2021, 2020, that team was Bergman was on the court the whole time. Brent Bia was
hmm
on the court the whole time. You had a
hmm
libero, Tippett,
hmm
whomever, McKissick, like that. the reason you can still name some of these players is it's like a baseball starting lineup, right? You're
Yep.
seeing the
Yep.
same nine players and a lot less
Right.
rotation than that. And we said the same thing about Passner. We said the same thing about Nell. Like it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they've been big rosters, but I feel like there's been a lot of people that have just been like, oh yeah, they were around. You
Of
know,
last year's of the departures for last year, just in terms of raw starters, Bertolino starter, Wiley turned into a starter the second half of the season. Emiliano starting setter, Oatsney starting outside hitter. Uh, so that's four of the starters there that are gone. So that's that's a decent chunk. Mendez,
yeah,
Mogridge, Pierce, and Velez all and Suarez all still there. Yeah, Velez. Pierce would sometimes start and whatnot, but anyways, you got your starting rotation, about half of it is gone. Uh,
yeah,
right now, I mentioned some of those returners. I'll just mention all of them now. Larissa Mendez, Liv Mogridge, who's out at middle blocker. DeAndre Pierce, who's a fifth year out from Tech, fifth year at middle blocker. Sofia Velez has been our libero. Eloise Suarez is going to be our starting setter this year. And then Anna Bosey, who has played and rotated in at the middle at various times. Those first 5 games, I think are still pretty. They're
yeah.
still starting. Are still going to start. Like Mendez might have to play some outside hitter after playing right side last year. Pierce has been pretty stable. Mogridge has been stable. Velez was pretty good last year, and then Suarez has been getting much better and just won gold out at Junior Pan Packs with Brazil. So clearly he's got something right going on. And then Anna Bosey has filled in very key spots at times. She's generally been the incoming middle blocker. She comes in off the bench, but will come in also if someone's hurt. Uh, these incoming players. So we had the Golden White game yesterday, the intramural game. Here's the problem. Uh, one, two, three, four, five, 7 players that are on the roster didn't play yesterday, either because they were out of international duty or just didn't dress for whatever reason. Don't really know. So there was so few players that the team that wasn't Tech was like of the guys from the men's club team, Luana Emiliano, and 2 or 3 people that are actually on the roster right now. So it was a very interesting style inter squad game where there wasn't like it wasn't you couldn't draw too much out of like how the rallies were going and things like that because they were playing against 5 dudes at a time that are all pretty good because our club team's half all right. So it was interesting, but there were some highlights. Notably, Lamine Mambu, and I'll use her as the way to get into the incoming players. Lamine Mambu is an
Okay.
outside hitter from Chantilly, Virginia. She's playing outside hitter. She has got a lot of flash. She hits the ball hard, very nimble. I think when you see her, you'll see she's not as how do I say this properly? I guess you know how Bertolino and other folks like they once they were jumping, it kind of just felt like that was it. They were kind of committed to one act kind of thing. Mambu's feels like that person that can do 5 different things in the air when she's up in the air. Like if it's just a
Good.
short pump shot, if it's just a normal shot, like she's got a lot going on there. Granted,
Well, that's
yesterday,
been I was gonna say that's been a piece of takeaway we've had, I think, a couple of times. So
yeah,
if that's something we can get like a little more, like it's almost like teams could program to this is the Otane, this is the Bertolino return, this is
yeah,
the
yeah.
Bergman obviously a little bit more adept to kind of a standalone player, but
Bergman could stand on for flat feet and hit and bomb
this,
past
this
it. Like she was special. This is different.
this
Yeah,
is what Mendez is.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's been an interesting point there, and I'm glad that you started us off with something because the obviously Bianca Garibaldi from Pitt, very high on my radar just from
Mm-hmm.
talent ID of a good program. But Jack,
Right.
since you offered up a name, can I offer up a hey, this name has jumped out
Yep.
again because
Yep.
I think it fits the since we can't talk about Pitt. Ital Lupoyo,
Lapoyo.
outside hitter
Yes.
from A&M,
Yeah.
much there. I'm trying to get a sense for these transfers, Jack.
Lapoyo did play yesterday. She was the one that Kurt had mentioned back a long time ago when we talked with her, Tim, that her reach was to the moon, and indeed her reach is to the moon. Uh,
Okay,
she is
as
taller than the.
advertised.
She's 6'3". She's the tallest player on the team right now. So she's taller than Mogridge and playing at to play outside or right side. Um, I wouldn't call her necessarily a power hitter per se, but she was placing a
Okay,
lot of balls yesterday in really good spots, which she can when she's reaching above literally everyone on the court, um, which is really cool. It's nice to have like we haven't had someone that tall since I don't know when. So it can solve a lot. That can definitely be a huge problem solver. She there is a element of she's very tall. The speed isn't all the way there. very lanky, I would say
Mm,
as well. Like she is not like a not built like a tank, so to say. Um, but because she has such good angles, there's still I think there's still a weapon there to be had.
okay.
I wouldn't. I was more impressed with Mambu yesterday than I was with Lapoyo, but Lapoyo still had some good moments, which
Okay.
was good to have. It's hilarious putting her next to one of our new liberos, Danielle Tansey, who is about the size of Sofia Velez, and so putting them together is just wild to see. Um, a big thing to note here:
Can't teach
the
tall, Jack.
cannot teach tall. Um, this was something that Michelle talked about with us afterwards yesterday. Was that our outside hitters in the past have been very defensively great. Like Bertolino, we were getting double doubles across the board a lot of the times between Oatsney, Bertolino, Bergman, all those people. Uh,
Mm,
she is not expecting that level of defense from our current group of outside hitters. That hasn't been Mendez's
mm,
forte either. Um, Thankfully, we are much taller up front than we have been in the past. Like Pierce is on the smaller end of our roster now at this point, um, and not somewhere in the middle. So there is
nice.
something to be said, I think, for hopefully a better upfront presence. I have no idea what our middle blocker rotation is going to be still because so many people didn't play yesterday. I really have no sense of like what a start outside of Mendez, Mogridge, Pierce, Velez, and Suarez. I don't know who fills in the other two spots. I really don't know. Um, Hopefully, there's more answers this week when they play Auburn. But otherwise, like it was mostly a B minus team out there. I'd say when you lose so many people to various things. I'll The other person that stood out to me though was Sarah Toth. She was the our new setter from Budapest. She was
Okay.
very calm and composed out there. Very much liked her. Like there was anytime she was coming back on a back row rotation to set, she was there cleanly. She didn't have a bad set once the entire match. Uh, has a little bit taller. I wouldn't say not as tall as D'Amico was, but a little bit. I think a little bit taller than McKissick was, but just played with such grace. Like had it just seemed so fluid out there, which was really cool to see. Like that, and she always played with the all girls team, or at least the all tech team, I should say. And they very rarely had setting problems with her when she was out there, which was really cool to see. So I think at worst we have the 6-2 still can live on if Michelle wants to go with it between Suarez and her. Abby Lee is our other setter. I honestly don't think we're going to see her. But between Toth and Suarez, there is a world where the 6-2 is gonna keep going, and that's still a rotation we go to in matches.
And of interest, just because sometimes we talk about this kind of stuff in the world of recruiting, Abby Lee looks to be the only Georgia name on this list out of
Yeah,
Alpharetta.
yeah.
Um, but then again, I would also say we're not quite as Brazil and Argentina heavy as we have maybe been in the past either. So,
No, we've gone to Europe with this roster. I'll list off the people here that are not from the United States that are incoming. We've got Gabby Rubinska from Poland, Bianca Garibaldi. Oh, not sorry, that's Pittsburgh. That's not Pittsburgh is not a foreign country. Sorry, Sarah Toth from Budapest, as I mentioned. Bianca
Italian
Stoy
American, Jack.
Bianca Stojanovic from Subotica, Serbia. And then Danielle Tansi from New York. Laura Bielski is from Brazil. Noemi Despagna is from Italy, and then Anna Fedorowicz is from Poland. So we got two Poles, Serbian, Hungarian, uh,
Italian,
and Italian.
Brazilian, yeah.
So
And
it's a little more diverse than usual, honestly.
the reason, not the only reason, obviously we talk about this in some form or fashion, and pretty regularly, but I saw Danielle Tanzi's name as being from Belle Harbor, New York, and I was like, that's not a very big place for being in New York, and I was very right. It's like a 2 block wide spit of sand out in the middle of the harbor. So,
Oh my,
geography's very interesting. You can be from Queens, but be at the edge of the sea.
yeah,
But yeah, no, they find them all over. There's gonna be a lot of opportunity, no matter
right,
outside hitter, setter. I mean, I'm sure, defensive specialist, middle, like
yeah.
we need help everywhere. I think
We
is
ha-
the
yeah,
is the
and
gist, right?
I'll also note Annika Groom. She had some good moments at hitting as well yesterday. She might even be able to fill it in middle at times as well, I think. But she was the other kind of like, oh, okay, there's something here person that I saw there out there yesterday.
They're
If
good.
of people that I could tell that was like, okay, you might have a shot at playing, or at least probably will be in the rotation. Lapuyo, I think for the hype, we're gonna need her out there. Mambu, of course, Toth, very much so. Groom, I think so. Uh, those are the main highlights. I don't think Tansy's not going to take Velez's spot. Velez has got that on lockdown. I wish I got to see. I mean, we didn't see Fedorowicz, we didn't see Stojanovic, we didn't see Garibaldi, we didn't see Robinska. So I'm not have no idea how good they are in terms of their hitting abilities and what they're going to bring to the table. I'm hoping it's going to be. I hope it can be better than what we saw yesterday. Mambu was great, but there was as a whole, there's still some room there. Nobi Despaigne, she's got some pop. There is just a lot of polishing to do with her game. Like I can see there's something there with her. Like she's not here for like Michelle Collier does not bring in anybody for no reason whatsoever. If she thinks you've got a shot, she brings you in. Nobi clearly has
Well,
a level still to reach, and I think a lot of these players still do. Uh, but that was someone who's like, it looks like she's about to be really good, and then she'd have one little mistake and be like, oh darn, okay. But outside of a lot of this people had that problem yesterday as well.
Well, and Jack, I think that's something where like the expectations for a freshman coming in or a new player coming in are different than maybe a transfer,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like if there's, identifiable talent to build and grow, this is a program that, yes, Rebbe and Bergman came in very talented and Bertolino came in very talented, and
Yeah.
there's some tall or some hops and all of that, but like the reason that they didn't just instantly get good is because they grow and develop in a system. Whereas maybe you're hoping that Lupoyo or Garibaldi have a little bit of more plug and play aspect if you're bringing them in as a transfer, right?
I think it's a big point. Is this is going back to how many new people there are? These are a lot of freshmen as well. Like these are not. This is not a transfer heavy class. This is a freshman heavy class, and so there is so much room for essentially they're resculpting this team from scratch again. Like you've got some leftover parts from last year's team, but they weren't the critical parts that made that team go. I mean, outside of Suarez was pretty big. Mendez had some good moments, but for the most part, there's just so much new here. They're going to be able to restart from scratch and curate this roster and develop them the way they want to, and kind of recreate whatever they need for the current day of college volleyball. So that gives me some hope in terms of just like we have seen how good they develop players. They have turned players that were not on anyone's radar and turned them into All Americans. So like we know they have that potential. And in terms of just a starting base, it seems Michelle does seem she does seem to be good with the depth that we have right now. Uh, I think there were some moments where last year's depth wasn't not everyone was playable. I wouldn't call everyone playable right now either in a standard ACC game. But I think she seemed to be happier with what's available to her to use right now, given the situation. So I'm
Yeah.
not calling this team. I am not calling this team elite. We were put ranked sixth in the ACC in preseason, and that feels about right, if not too high. I'm not gonna lie.
I was gonna say for somebody who hasn't been paying attention and been like, well, they're just kind of plugging along and they always plug along. No, I mean, last year's team felt like there was a little bit of a depth piece missing, especially with some key injuries. Mogridge
Yeah,
comes to mind there.
yeah,
Like it seemed like a team that some, uh, dare I say, like new blood, new talent might go a long way.
yeah.
Or at least some way, and on some level it's exciting, right? We're in the phase of the season where you can see a lot of things happening if things come together. And you were in the
Yep.
building yesterday, so if I'm wrong here and it's like, Jake, maybe tamp that down a little bit. Like usually I feel like I'm the one doing the tamping, so I don't know. Seems like there's at least a decent amount to like, or at least dream on in the meantime, right? We're
There's
not saying it's like a this is the year situation, but
no,
it's also not that dire
no,
or anything.
it's not. I'll be very curious how they play the first weekend because right now I can't even tell you if this is a tournament team. Like that's how
Hmm.
much I haven't
Okay.
seen. I don't know how much better Mendez has gotten. I don't know how much better Suarez has gotten. I don't know how much better Mogridge has gotten. I mean, yesterday Mogridge, Pierce, and Velez just kind of seem to be going through the motions yesterday, not pushing. I don't think they were supposed to be pushing too hard anyways. So I did not take any. I didn't. I just kind of ignored everything they were doing because they just didn't see. They didn't need to be playing full strength. They didn't need to play 100%. There was no reason to, with basically no one there. This week when we
So
play off,
Jack, you're telling me that volleyball for Georgia Tech is finally to the point where oh yeah, we need to round out the top 25. Throw them at 22.
I
That'll work. They're
I mean,
good.
they've been ranked for 5 years in a row. This
I
is week
know,
90. This is poll 90 in a row they've been ranked, which
which
is
is wild.
incredible. I am slightly worried that knowing who we play, that if things don't go right in week 2 and 3 of the season, that we may not keep that streak alive, and it may end at 92 or
Yeah.
93, or 91 or 92 polls. Uh, I think they're good enough to beat Wofford and Arkansas State in the first week. Ole Miss, hopefully so. I hate that I'm missing that game, but it's we'll see. They This is terrible. This is terrible podcasting. Yeah, there is still a level of I don't know still to go here. That's going to be answered when
Yeah.
they start playing games fully as a team. But there
Mhm.
is enough here right now to at least say, okay, they're not going to be incompetent. They will. They have a path forward. They have so many options to go through and sort through right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if this does turn into a like there's a couple of hitters that may get rotated in more frequently than before or whatnot. I don't know how that'll pan out. The good news is though, because there's been so many players on international duty, they have been able to do some more individualized training with a number of these bench players that they probably wouldn't have gotten in a normal preseason structure. So
Hmm.
the benefits to having and like Suarez and Mendez and all them are gone, and they're keeping in touch with them, but they're kind of just letting them have their international team experience and going all in on that, which is really cool to hear. But that does give everyone else a few more reps out there, a few more first team reps with whatever you can call first team in this context. So there are some positives that are coming out of not having everyone here and playing together right now. But I think
Yeah.
next week when Suarez comes back and Mendez comes back, uh, there will be they'll be able because they need to have Suarez in there to get the setting tempo right, which he's been here for some of the time. A lot of them trained together in the spring, but there is still a okay. How is this going to go down? How much better does she get? Kind of thing. So um, that's where I'm at right now. I think there's a shot they can still be really good. I mean, this is Georgia Tech. They've made the tournament every year since 2020. Like the baseline for this team is as high as any team we have outside of probably golf. So
Yeah. I think that's an accurate read or one that jives with me, right? Like there's I don't know. I'm at the point where I kind of give Michelle, at least in some regards, the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, you want to be, be fair and call things balls and strikes as they are, right? But
right,
like
yep,
until we actually see them get out on the court, like, hey, there's a lot that they can work with and a lot to your point that wasn't here yesterday, right? And it's
yep,
also it's a golden white scrimmage, which maybe to some level you do a la spring game or a la Golden White World
mm-hmm.
Series because you
Yep,
kind of have the expectation that you do it. Why
yep,
Georgia Tech doesn't do a Midnight Madness for basketball when we do these other things, I don't know, but that's a different podcast. But like it's that kind of thing, right? Even the
yep,
Auburn scrimmage next week, like how much are we really going to be able I feel like as having gone to that 4 or 5 times, like I don't usually walk away from that with too many thoughts either, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. So we'll see. Last year they won 21 games. Right now, I would say I am feeling closer to 17 this year. 17, maybe 16. Just knowing this is you don't have Bianca Briarlito. We do not have an All American on this team. We don't have Tamara Otene. Both of them were first team All ACC. Like that is some serious top end talent that is just not here right now, and we didn't necessarily. And usually freshmen aren't like the ones making massive differences on this team either. Like the last few years, it's been just people that are leading these teams are ones that have had a year at least to get into the system and get good. Bergman had some big games in her freshman year, of course, but she's one of a kind. So that's I think one thing to just keep in mind is there's a lot of for a team that usually has two or three. Okay, clearly this team is going to run through these people, and this is how you're going to have to beat them if you're ever going to beat us. I can't say I know how that's going to happen this year. Doesn't feel
yeah.
like there's that obvious plot point unless Larissa Mendez is just has reached another tier and is amazing, which I would really like that. She made some big progress last year. She got stronger last year and had some insanely good games. So it's out there. It's possible. This team develops as good as anybody else. So I'll be very curious to see how much better the pre-existing players are this year once we get into game speed. Uh,
The convo we have after Ole Miss, I think, will be very telling.
yeah,
And that's kind of where I'm at.
yeah, I agree. I will have to find a way to watch that in a field in Ohio or something like that. We'll find out. Any last
Enjoy.
thought? Any last thoughts before we move on?
No, I think we've said what we need to say at this point in the year.
Well, have we heard from Section 103 today? They have some things to say.
They do have some things to say. Jack, unless you've heard something different than what I've heard. I think I would like to promote that. Well, I was going to promote the mystery shirts, but can't do that. So instead, I'll just remind everyone about hats, about stocking up. I'm gonna say that there's another school out there, but go ahead, sure, whatever. Buy LSU stuff, but also buy Georgia Tech stuff. As always. Section103.com is the very best place to find it, and there's free shipping on orders over 80 bucks. Remember to use our code FTRS for 10% off. Jack, these are my standard lines. Did you have something else in mind?
Not really.
Okay,
There,
cool. I don't usually throw it to you during the ad break, so there you go.
we'll see if something happens soon. Who knows?
All right, fair enough. And then in the meantime, like I said, section103.com and at section103 on Instagram. Get your stuff. The season's coming up for football and volleyball and pretty soon everything else too. So give them a shout and tell them we sent you.
We'll dive into some football news, the football news from this week. As I walked into the volleyball game yesterday, I see what happened at Brent Key's presser, which was basically he said something to the voice of "We were awful yesterday in their own scrimmage game they had at Bobby Dodd." Uh, I am he was pissed off, like he looked like a pissed off Brent Key. We've seen that guy before. I am personally taking almost no. I'm not taking anything from it. Uh, Teams have scrimmages that are bad in preseason, and also sometimes coaches say things to just spin a certain narrative out there or to add some heat to their guys, to add some pressure on them preseason to get them motivated and things like that. Um, we didn't see the game. This isn't televised or anything like that. We weren't there. Uh, all that to say, if Brent Key's mad, I believe he's got a reason to be mad, but I also believe he's smart enough to know how to push buttons in a certain way if a button needs to get pushed.
Yes. That's definitely 100% where I'm at with that. Given that there were no actionable names, plays, situations, injuries, uh, not that
That we
Coach
heard.
Key
That
is
we heard.
very
That
good.
yeah.
Brent is very good at being coy about stuff and
Mm-hmm.
giving a smart little answer when need be, and I
Yep.
respect the heck out of him for it. It's almost Paul Johnsonian in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but he wears his emotions on his sleeve to enough of an extent that I'll say, sure, maybe it's not up to snuff, but also I would be concerned if a coach at this point in the year was like, "Yep, we got it. We're good. Everyone's great." Like to the point we were just making about volleyball, right? There's so many open-ended things that we're talking about that scrimmage.
Right.
All of those probably equally apply here, except maybe international duty because, American football,
Right.
like
Yep.
everyone's going to win or lose in a scrimmage that's on your team. Like if a great pass gets made or a blown coverage happens, like it's not they took advantage. What a great mind by Haynes King or Aaron
Right.
Philo or whomever. It's like, shoot, there's a tech defender on the other side of that play. And then the same thing applies at the lines as it does scheming things up, right? Like somebody's
Yep.
gonna win and someone's gonna lose. And yeah, it I don't know. Jack, I'm cautiously optimistic for this team, and I really can't let too much sway that opinion other
Yeah.
than, all right, we'll see you in 2 weeks,
I don't think we'll remember that this was a thing that happened by like next Thursday. Honestly, this feels like such a nothing burger to me. Um, I mean, you're supposed. I mean, at least in my experience in sports and things like that, you always practice a little bit. You make the situation harder than the game speed will actually be. Like you put more pressure on yourself then to make the games easier, kind of thing. So I would not be surprised if he wants to just get them through as much of a ringer as he can now, to where once it comes to game weeks and classes and things like that, it's a little bit easier for them to get through, and it's not the hell that he unleashed in the locker room yesterday. It
Well, and Jack, the main actionable or quantifiable thing he kept talking about was the temperature. And like it was hot yesterday.
was
I
hot as
I
hell
I biked
yesterday. Yeah.
from location redacted clear over to Mason Mill Park, which is a decent distance,
Yeah.
and back. And it was very, very hot.
Yep.
So I don't blame them for, if you're out on AstroTurf, yeah, okay, that's gonna be adversity, right?
It's
Like
hard.
that's
It's hard.
that's
Yeah.
hard. Like
Uh, Maybe it makes playing in mile high weather easier. I don't know. If you're just drenched in humidity and things like that. So, uh,
Maybe, maybe
Speak,
not.
I know.
I don't know.
On
Right?
yeah, on Colorado, I'm still feeling good. Right now, we're a 4 point favorite in the game, and that feels about right to me. Um, I I still see that nothing has come up on their end that's made me scared in terms of how that game's gonna go down. The only thing, the biggest like, maybe we may not have as good of a shot as I thought is maybe the Clemson game. The having read and seen more on the preseason stuff, Clemson does seem pretty good. They are top. They're very highly ranked for a reason. I'm not sure I buy the Cade Klubnik Heisman hype out there, but is he a candidate? Yes, obviously he's a candidate. He's the quarterback of probably a playoff team this year, so of course he's somewhat of a candidate already. Um,
Speaking of Clemson game, whiteout, I did notice
yes,
that the T-shirt this is my whiteout shirt, which feels like a riff off of the this is my airport shirt that's on all the
yes,
ads at the airport.
yeah,
If they did that on purpose, I love it. I'll be buying a Section 103 shirt this year if I get a new shirt, but I do like the effort there and I like the reference if that was an
yes.
intentional reference.
Oh, maybe who knows? I don't know.
Just got to put
Uh,
Brett Key up on the airport screens in one of those now, you know?
hey, if we win the ACC, they may put us up at the airport. I don't know. They do that. They
Eh,
do stuff like that sometimes. Or maybe
yeah.
we have to buy the ad space. Probably actually.
Him next to Trey Young, and then they flip through to the governor, and then they flip through to
Yes.
like some philanthropist or something. I don't know how
Uh,
this is,
the World
various
Cup ads.
musical
Yeah,
accoutrements, and yeah,
yeah, things like
anyways.
that. Um, I think the best news this week is that the demand for tickets is still as high as it's ever been, if not higher on the student end, as the traditional north end where the students sit is sold out for students. If you are a student now who was trying to buy a season ticket in that part of the stadium, unless you got a block arrangement, you can't get there. You got to go to the south
Well,
end zone,
wow.
which I would say you are one of the special people who get to populate the end zone that we have very rarely in the last decade been populating with students. So we broke that barrier last year. We got after that Florida State when the hype was there, we were filling students back there, but we didn't fill out that south end zone. Uh, so I mean, this speaks as I don't. This never happened when I was on campus, for sure. Like I mean, we were there in the literal worst of the worst. So it was very
Yeah.
easy to get into the north end zone if you wanted to be in. You could just walk in and just go in the north end zone. No one cared because there were so few people there. Uh, and now this is what I mean. We're in a sense, I think we're much closer to back to what a classic southeastern college campus is like when it comes to football Saturday, which is all of campus is going to this. Like this is not this is becoming closer and closer to mandatory things that you do when you're at Georgia Tech. So I'm so happy that this is the case. You had something about what Key said about this as well.
Yeah, and he said stuff like this before about, making a product that the students should be happy and proud of and, shared adversity and this, that, the other thing. And it kind of crystallized in my head that like through the last couple of years, something that's made me check out of college sports or less interested in going to as many college sports or watch less of them is just how much talk is about, ADs and coaches and like this,
Mm-hmm.
amorphous transfer portal and money and TV contracts and rich sponsors and NIL deals and insert other boogeymen here, right? And
Right.
rarely do people talk about, there's plenty of podcasts that talk about this. I'll shout out Basketball Conference for being open and candid about how they feel and how the changes, influence their, investment in a sport. And we
Mm-hmm.
talk about this as two friends and with Akshay as well. But like, it's pretty rare to hear a coach or an administrator outside of generics say like the students are, like have a stake in it or an ownership or the fans have a ownership or a stake of it and
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know, man, but between the three of us that host this podcast, we've got 4 tech degrees. We've been to more of these events than we can count. And it was pretty rare, except for maybe a Josh Pastner at times, to hear somebody who truly
Yeah.
sounded like they believed like the fans and the students were like the glue that keeps it together. Because at the end of the
Yep.
day, like a game on TV that's just two big helmets of people tune in for amorphous interest. Like that's not what keeps the sport going. What keeps it going is
Right.
people having shared experiences, shared memories, and it applies to pro sports too. I mean, like that's how I inherited all of my professional sports affiliations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
going to college gave me a football team. Like I think that's super important, and that makes me feel excited for what the kind of energy he and by extension the rest of the athletic staff, if that's the kind of things that these people are talking about, it makes me feel like they have, the interests of people like us or people who are in the shoes that we were in at heart, right? Like
Yep.
obviously it's an expensive world out there to run a big time college program and tickets are costly and whatnot. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is share something cool with our friends and neighbors and classmates and things like that. So,
Yep.
if it means us in section, I guess we're usually in section 111, even if it's just like the people around us, right? That's the cool part about going to a game, right? Or in
Yep.
basketball, sitting in the stands and watching something neat happen. So, I don't know.
There's very few things on campus right now with how busy students get, how many different ways you can spend
Hmm.
your time with clubs and like that. This is one of the few things that we have that gets all of the student body in the same place, like that everyone can
Or all
rally
the
around
alumni
together.
talking about it too,
Exactly.
Jack.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It like this is how you this is the primary connecting point to the institute for most of our alumni. If you're not if you're not intentionally like still engaged with the school or helping with the scholarship fund or some other thing, like this is the way that we keep this thing together. Like we keep this community together. Is this?
Jack, I'm gonna put this out there because I think anyone who listens to this podcast, and we know it's a small but loyal group, right? Or a growing but loyal group, right?
It's big. Hey,
Is
we're getting
probably
YouTube views, man.
yeah, exactly. But it's the kind of community that after the Florida State game, did you get a bunch of texts from people that you don't hear from very much, but if Georgia
Uh
Tech
huh.
does something in sports, you hear from?
More the Miami game actually. Yeah.
That too,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
homecoming and that kind of thing, right? Like
Yep.
that's
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of thing that this stands for, right? It's the
Yep.
community, the connection, the stake,
Right.
the ownership.
Right.
That's what drives the bus. The same thing I could probably say about the 2021 men's basketball
Mm-hmm.
ACC title, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
those are the things that like you grow in and you invest in, and maybe maybe if we get another Georgia Tech president or astronaut or something like that, that's cool too. But
Yep.
those are the kinds of front page news, if you will, that
Right.
that get people invested. So I thought that was cool. I just wrote a ton more on that than what he actually said, but it was refreshing to hear somebody speak with that candor, or
Yeah.
that kind of tenor in the money and transfers and TV and blah blah.
Yeah. No, he gets it. No, he gets it.
Yeah,
Brent has understood what it takes to lead at Georgia Tech about as much as anybody has in the last 5 years.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and
Hey, speaking of, if anyone out there has not read Whit Babcock's slides that Virginia Tech athletic director Whit Babcock's slides that he presented to the Virginia Tech University of
yes,
Virginia system, I don't know
something like
their
that.
governance structure,
They're regions.
Board of Regents
Yeah.
equivalent, right? It's out there, it's public. Maybe we can drop a link in. I'll see if we can find something, but there's a 900-page document of their most recent board meeting, and he presented a bunch of slides. And I didn't plan to mention this, but I thought it was cool to see Georgia Tech mentioned in a here's a positive thing they're doing for athletics. And there's a slide that says investment in athletics, literally investment in athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And most of these are stats and statistics, but the one with the GT in the chat bubble says, President remarked, quote, we made a decision, the board made a decision that we're going to invest and be competitive at the highest level, end quote. And that's with the Georgia Tech logo next to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sums that all up, right? And of
Yep.
course, there's another chat bubble that's Tennessee, and it's in the last decade alone. Tennessee State Building Commission approved $500 million worth of improvement projects for UT. So we hired their building guy, and we got a president who's bringing it all back around together. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'd love to hear more from more coaches as seasons start to spool up. But James Ramsey, if you want to come in and talk about how you're really cool on students, or Coach Karen, or Bruce Hepler, or whomever. It's an open door, right? So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. They're getting it done. It's vital that what makes this thing go is people showing up, and so they're making it easier for us to show up, which is really nice. Okay, I want to touch on the men's basketball schedule as the non-con came out, and whew, I mean, I don't know how many of these games I'm gonna go to because am I interested in seeing Southeastern Louisiana on Monday, November 10? Uh I don't know about
Jack,
that. I don't know.
they're lucky that I've already purchased my season tickets because
This
this
is
is
this is rough.
it's a lot of home games, but it's a lot of home games, if you know what I mean.
Uh, well, yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna read these opponents out. These are the games that that are not at some. We play at the Emerald Coast Classic in Destin, which we had mentioned this before. We have DePaul, Drake, and or
Which if you've been
LSU.
unfrozen, if you've been unfrozen from like 50 years ago, this is not your grandpa's DePaul team, which I
No,
know because it's not my grandfather's DePaul team, you know?
so
Like,
that's already maybe we play LSU. We'll see. But the normal home and road games: Maryland Eastern Shore, Bryant, Southeastern Louisiana at Georgia, hosting Georgia Southern, hosting West Georgia, hosting Monmouth, Marist, Lafayette, and Florida A&M. Florida A&M is the best team on this roster that isn't from the state of Georgia. Uh,
J Jack, um, can we just read some Ken Palm rankings real quick?
oh
Because I
sure.
think that'll tell
Oh,
us.
it's a yeah, yeah.
The highest number, lowest rank
Yeah.
you can be in Ken Palm in this coming year or this previous year was 364.
Okay. Not good.
I want you to guess what our first opponent's Ken Palm ranking was last year. Maryland Eastern Shore.
361.
358.
Oh
So
dear God.
yeah, so pretty bad. They've not
Wow.
typically been a huge power. Bryant's 150s. Southeastern Southeastern Louisiana, Selah is 186.
Oh
Also not great.
no.
West Georgia, sorry, Georgia Southern 249. West
Oh.
Georgia 350.
Oh
Um,
no.
and
Oh
then
no.
Monmouth, Marist, and Lafayette. Did they just say, "Hey"? Come on down. Like
Yeah, I guess.
we'll bring it down. 268 for Monmouth,
Oh no.
Marist 273, and
Jesus.
Lafayette 291. Florida A&M. Florida A&M is I'm still scrolling 317. So
Jesus.
all of these teams are maybe like kill your resume level bad if you drop any of them. And
Right.
if you beat them, congrats, it still tanks your resume because they're
You
not very
played
good.
them. No, the counter to all of this is that we could play three SEC games. We're guaranteed to play Georgia. We're hosting Mississippi State for the ACC SEC Challenge, and if we're lucky in Destin, we'll play LSU. Uh, but it's probably going to require us both to win, or both to lose, with however that stuff usually goes. So, it's
Jack, LSU was still the 88th best team in the country last year.
that sounds awesome after all these other numbers you just told me. It's it's not good. These are the kind of games that we've seen get canceled in baseball schedules if there's any excuse to, because it just doesn't help your resume given what the committees usually rank off of to even play the games in the first place. Uh, and so it's
And you
man,
know what the galling thing about this schedule is, Jack?
go.
So many of these are probably buy games that
Yeah,
are expensive. You're paying for these teams to come down here. You're
yeah.
not going to get any fan interest. Well, maybe you'll get some, but like,
Some, but yeah, if you want to see Monmouth play, if you're a sicko that's like trying to watch every basketball team ever, great. This is a great way to knock a lot of teams you probably
j
haven't checked off. But
just
otherwise,
just ink a home and home with like even and I know that this is something we've circled back around on a couple of times, and they didn't fare too well last year. But if you're going to do a team that's 250 or worse, put Georgia State on there. Like,
yeah,
granted, Georgia Southern, fine. West
we got
Georgia,
yeah
sure, I guess.
we got the state teams covered. Like that's fine. Like we should always do that, and we're doing it. That's fine.
But like just put on your britches and do a home and home with I don't know, like USF or something. You know what I mean?
Something
Like
a lot.
or
I mean,
Kennesaw State, even.
a
Like
lot of
I don't know.
a lot of teams are. I mean, I keep seeing on Twitter and stuff like that, like teams announcing home and homes with good teams. I'm like, why can't we go play like Iona? Why can't we go play UN? Like hell, let's go play UNLV. Let's
And
go hang out with Josh again. Like, why
and
not?
th this is the frustrating part of the current discourse in athletics, it's specifically with it relating to men's basketball, is Georgia Tech tier power teams have completely run away from scheduling a good mid-major, something that'll
Yeah,
get eyeballs, right? A
yeah,
Georgia Tech hosting St. Louis or I don't know. Dayton's too good for me to just lump in this boat, but maybe like a Richmond Spiders or a Temple Owls, right? These teams that
Hmm.
were kind of that bedrock of the interesting, like bottom of the top third, if you will, of
Hmm.
basketball. If you're a Drake, well, I guess we might play Drake here, but that's in a odds and ends. So I'll say Bradley instead, right? My
Yep.
very
Yep.
personal bias there, but like they used to get a power team or two in their building each year, like,
Hmm.
it's just not. I don't know.
It's not great.
It, it,
It's annoying.
it
It's annoying.
at least these are all home by games? Question mark. Like it.
Yeah.
At least last
Yeah.
year we had Cincinnati and Northwestern in the mix too.
Yeah, there were
Like,
some fun ones at Northeastern, I think. But yeah, there was still some. Yeah, there was some. Was it Northwestern? I don't remember. Anyways, yeah, no, they.
who we play in Milwaukee? Northwestern.
Oh, it was Northwestern. You're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, weird stuff going on. Yeah. Wish it was not this way because these are the kind of like I want to go to most, if not all, these games if I'm around. But at the same time, like I could do something else than watch us beat Marist by 25. Like, hopefully we beat them by
Or only
25.
beat them by 8 and be mad.
Right. It's like the only way this is good. The only way you come out of this for us deeply emotionally connected people to this is if we win by 30 and hope the
Yep.
bench players play and Dodongo gets to not play the second half or something like that. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I want to move on to the coaches show that Brent Key is doing, his radio show that he does on Tuesdays and or Thursdays throughout the season. If you want to see him at New Rome Brewing, you can on the 26th. He'll do his radio show there with Andy Demetra. He's doing it again. They're doing it at New Realm before the Gardner Webb game, Temple game, Wake Forest game, Duke, NC State, and Pittsburgh and Georgia games. Basically, they're going to go there like 8 times, 8, 9 times this year. They're going to do this on campus a couple times, and they may just skip a couple weeks as well because being a coach is hard. But as a way to go hang out with, maybe say go say hi, get to Brink you could be cool. Uh, Beyond that, let's see here. We got various watch list people have been on for football. That's the no games have been played. Whatever. The golf team was awarded the who is this? The GCAA Outstanding Team Academic Award, which makes sense. We should be good at the academic sides of things, so that's good to see. Uh, and then lastly, I'm going to pitch myself here. So full disclosure, I work at the Georgia Tech Alumni Association, and I am running a webinar with our head coach from of the past, Bill Curry, and we're going to talk just about 1980s football for about an hour. And people can tune in on Zoom. You can go to gtalumni.org and sign up for that. And we're just going to talk together for about an hour. We'll let people chime in with questions and whatnot for Coach Curry. But if you haven't heard about the story of the 1980 to 86 Tech football team, or want to hear some memories you were there for, that is what that night's going to be. It's if you have any kind of interest in this football team, or I'll sneak peek this, any interest in stories that sound a lot like the going from Collins to Brent Key era, and it may be happening in the past. This is a version of that story, I would say. Not one to one, but it's a very interesting thing to hear how Coach Curry has talked about that time and how it very much connects to the time right now. So pitching that is at 7 o'clock on Wednesday, the 27th. And then my last pitch is GameOnPaper.com. Watch football with Game on Paper. That's all. That's all I need to say there. That's all I got.
Cool. Well, I'll take us out. Jack, thanks for hanging. As always, you can find us at FromTheRumbleSeat.com. Check it out. We got a new look. Lots of great content over there. You can find us on lots of different social medias: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook at From the Rumble Seat. You can find us on Blue Sky at FTRS Blog. Jake Grant 98, Jack Nicholas, Section 103 is over there. Akshay's over there somewhere. And you can email us from the rumble seat at gmail.com. We love to hear from you. As always, tell your friends where they can find us, rate, review, and again, word of mouth is the best way to spread the message for what we're doing. And those are wherever fine podcasts are distributed. Until next time, good night, good luck, and go Jackets.